Student loan debt can burden people for decades. Here in the Sunshine State, the Bright Future Scholarship Program is supposed to help. Florida students that achieve certain benchmarks can get their in-state tuition partially or fully covered. But 10 Investigates Jenna Bourne found out the future is not equally bright for all students.
There's a persistent racial gap when it comes to who gets these scholarships. This orange line here, this is the percentage of Hispanic students who've gotten Bright Futures scholarships. Look at how that number has tripled since that scholarship program started. Now look at this green line. This is the percentage of Black students who've gotten scholarships. Stagnant. For nearly 3 decades, it's never been more than 7%. We wanted to know why.
Representing the Southern United States, Shanasia Jaunty.
You might want to listen up because this Florida high school grad and National Youth Poet Laureate finalist has a lot to say.
No, America's bedtime stories will never include you. No, they're written with the same words they prayed you would never learn to read.
We would have loved to talk to Shanasia Jaunty in person, but she doesn't live in Florida anymore. I want to make sure I understand. You can go to an Ivy League school in New York on a full ride, but you can't get 100% tuition scholarship to a Florida university.
No.
She says her SAT score wasn't high enough to qualify for a Bright Futures scholarship to cover 100% of her tuition. As she was looking at the Bright Futures student handbook, she noticed students in the National Hispanic Recognition Program get their minimum SAT or ACT score requirement waived.
And I was like, okay, I have the National Recognition Award for African American, like it's the same requirements. Maybe they forgot to, list Indigenous and Black students.
Nope, not a mistake. Out of the 5 College Board National Recognition programs, including the National African American Recognition Program, only students in the National Hispanic Recognition Program get their test score requirements waived, thanks to this state law passed in 2000.
For one group to be recognized, which I fully support, and one group to not be just seemed odd.
Florida legislators have been raising the minimum test scores to qualify for Bright Futures since the 2012-2013 school year to keep the program financially sustainable. The percentage of high schoolers who qualified dipped as minimum test scores rose. Those years are represented by the vertical dotted lines on this graph. Data shows Black students and students whose families have lower incomes score lower on college entrance exams.
If we're going to create a path outside of standardized test scores, let's make sure all students have that opportunity to demonstrate merit.
Braulio Colon is executive director of the Florida College Access Network.
Since 1997, the percentage of Bright Future recipients who identify as Black has not changed. We're clearly not doing something right.
It just really goes back to equity and access.
Sarasota Middle School counselor Dr. Carmen Larson tells us another big factor is Florida's shortage of school counselors.
How many students are you responsible for?
About 417.
The average school counselor in Florida works with 423 students. That's way above the American School Counselor Association's recommended ratio of 250 to 1. Dr. Larson says school counselors also get pulled away to fill in staffing gaps like substitute teaching, lunch duty, and bus duty.
A lot of times the African American population will seek out school counselors as the resource about post-secondary education options. So when that counselor is not there, it's really hard to find somebody that has the information and the resources that they need.
We still have a lot of unanswered questions.
When we started asking the Florida Department of Education about this gap in March, a spokesperson told us over the past 5 years, approximately 50,000 eligible students did not apply to receive Bright Futures. We asked for a racial breakdown of those students. The agency stopped responding to us 2 months ago.
Hi, this message is for Commissioner Manny Diaz.
The Commissioner of Education hasn't been returning my calls, but he has been busy. He and the lottery secretary have visited 4 high schools to raise awareness about Bright Futures since we started asking questions.
Our first lesson that making ourselves small still takes up too much space.
True to form, Jaunty didn't stay silent. She created a petition asking lawmakers to expand the test score waiver to all minority groups who've qualified for national recognition programs.
There are these things that have systemically just been there against us for years.
She wants more students to have access to higher education so their futures can look bright too. As students head to their high school graduations this month, the bar has been raised again. The minimum test scores required to qualify for Bright Futures this year are the highest they've ever been. In the studio, Jenna Bourne, 10 Investigates.
Jenna created her own database showing who's qualifying for Bright Futures, who's getting the scholarships, and how much that program has cost over the years. Now, you can explore those numbers yourself right now on our free 10 Tampa Bay app.